All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to BlueSky Citadel Cisco Packet Tracer Lab training. This is our first lab for the Cisco Packet Tracer, and tonight we are going to look at basic setup for two PCs and a router. And the objective of this training, of this lab, is for us to see how we can connect two PCs together with a router, and at the end of the day, test the connectivity between the two PCs and the routers. In other words, pinging the pinging the PCs to show that they can connect with each other on a network. So there is a guide that we're using. So if we go to the guide, we'll see that the first thing we need to do on the guide is for us to add our devices on this workspace. If you're new to the Cisco Packet Tracer workspace, once you log in into the software, this is the interface you're going to see. And most of the thing will be using the devices. You'll find them at the bottom of the screen, towards the left side of the screen. We have here the network devices. If you click on these network devices, it will show you the options of what we have here, like the routers, switches, hubs, wireless devices, and the rest. The same thing for end devices. End devices are devices such as PCs, laptops, servers, printers, and the rest. So in networking, we have different connectivities in terms of the cables that are also being used. If you see this light bolt icon here, it shows all the cables that are used to connect different devices. So for devices that are of different type, for example, a PC and a router, most of the time you have to use a straight cable to connect it. And if the devices are the same, let's say router to router, PC to PC, we use the cross cable device. So let's just get into our lab tonight. So I'm going to click on the network device. As we can see on our lab tonight, we need a router. So what we need to do is just to click on this icon where we have this network device and go to where we have a router. We can pick the first one, just pick the first one like I've done here, and just put it on the workspace. So once you put it on the workspace, we've already assigned a router to our workspace. So what next do we need to do? We need two PCs. You go back and click on where you have these end devices, click on it, and you see the first icon here is a PC. So we need two of this. Click on it, move it to your workspace. Take another one, move it to the workspace. So we have, if you have any question, if you're not clear or if you're finding it hard to move, please drop your questions in the chat box. Tosin will be helping to moderate the chat box. So if you have any question, please just ask in the chat box. Then I'm happy to go back and explain whatever thing that is not clear. So I think at this point, we should be able to do it to this point. But if anybody's having any problem before I proceed, please just let me know. Please let me know. Are we good to go? We can talk. We can talk. Please let me know. Are we good to go?
Yes.
All right. So the next step is for us for anyone that is joining, there's a PDF document in the chat that we are using for this lab tonight. So you can follow with the PDF as well and do the same on your own device at home. So the next thing right now we want to do is to connect the devices. And what we will use to connect is this icon. It says connections. We can see, and there are different cables here. And like I've explained earlier on, we have a PC to a router. So both of them are two different devices. So the cable we are going to use is this copper straight through. You click on it. This is the cable. Click on the router. Just close this one. I'll pick the cable again. Click. We're using this fast Ethernet. Just drag it to the router and click on it. Then we're using this gigabit Ethernet 00. Just click on it. It's going to be red. It's not connected. If it's connected, it's going to turn green. And the reason is because routers are configured that way that when they are first connected, they don't turn on for security reasons. So you have to go back and do the configuration and power it on. So that's why you're saying that it's still showing red at the moment, because it's not connected yet. So the next thing, let's pick another copper straight through cable. We're connecting the next PC to the router again. And this time around, another port of the router, because the router have different ports. So it can be as up to 24, even sometimes more than that. So you just connect it to another port. So these two pieces, imagine you connecting one PC with a cable to the router, then another PC with another cable to another port on the router. So this is just what we have done. Two cables, one from one PC connecting to one port on the router, another PC, there's a cable connecting from that PC to another router. This is just what we have done. So the next thing we will need to do right now is to go to this router. We're going to double click the router and we're going to go to this, I'll just move this one a bit. Oh, I'll go back, yeah, to this. Trying to move this away from the screen. Okay. So the router, we go back, click on it, and we go to what we can see here that is called the CLI, is the command line interface. This is where we're going to put in some of the command line to configure this router. I hope we are good to go. Any questions so far? Sorry, I'm trying to move this away from, okay. Are we all at this stage? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Any problems so far? Or are we on track? Okay, so I'll continue. There's a question. It says, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? Usually it is no, because we want to do it ourselves. So we're going to click no. And just follow along with the PDF file. And I'm going to explain some of these commands to us. Usually for router configuration, we have three types of mode. We have the user mode, which usually once you start, you find this sign that looks like a greater than. And that mode is called the user mode. But if we want to do any configuration, we have to move to the configuration mode. And to get to the configuration mode, we need to type in enable first. Enable will take us to, there's another mode that is called the privilege executive mode. There are three modes, and I will explain what each one does. On the enable one, on the first one, which has a greater than sign, you can't do any configuration when you're in that mode. And this other mode that have this hash sign, you can only do limited configuration. So the best is just to go into the mode that we have, the global configuration mode. And how do you get into this mode? All you need to do is just to type, as you can see on your PDF there. It says configure terminal. You can type in the word completely, configure terminal, or you can use config T. It's the same. You can decide to shorten it, or you can add it. You can see now it has changed the router to config. So right now you are sure you're on the configuration mode. So whatever you start doing right now is you start configuring the router. So, but you have to make sure you get to this config mode, which will help you to configure the router correctly. So the first thing we need to do, you can decide to leave your router, but just for best practice, you can have many routers, and if every of the router is just saying router, 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 so it's good for you to rename your router, give it a name that you can probably, maybe it's a router for IT department, or is a router for a particular section or a particular department in the organization, just for you to be able to identify this particular router on the network. So it's good as a good practice for you to rename, give your router a name. So for the purpose of this training, you can decide to give it any name you want. So what you need to do is just put host name and give it any name you want. So I decide to say home router, and you don't put space between your naming. You can put a dash, or you can just make it one word. Router. If you look at the next command line, you can see that router have changed to home router config. So that means we have successfully changed the host name. We successfully changed the host name. So this way, anytime you're looking for the router, you can find it with that home router name. Any problems? Are we on track? Can I get a confirmation that we're on track? Please, if you have any question, please put it in the chat, or you can just raise up your hand and ask the question. Yeah, just go back and check what's there. So I just want to see what next we're doing. Okay, we've done the host name. So okay, the next thing we want to do now is to configure the line console password. The line console password is used to, is like the connection, the physical connection between the PC and the router. So you have to like password that connection, because like I said, it's a security device. It was going to control the network connection. So we have to like put a password on it before we start using it. So that is what the console line password is going to do for us. So to do that, there is a command line that we're going to use, and that is called the line console 0. If we look at the next command line, it has changed from config to config line. So it tells you that everything is good with the command line. Sometimes if something is wrong, maybe there's a typo error, it's not typed properly, it's going to give you an error. Or if it doesn't give you an error and it gives you the config line, just know that you're on track. But if there's an error, just go back, check what you didn't do correctly, and just do the right thing, and you're going to get it up to this point. So what we need to do right now is just to add the password. So just type in password and put the password you want to add. You can decide to use the password on the document, or you can use your own password. So let's use home123 at. Click on enter, and just to verify, just put login, so that when next you want to log into your router, it's going to ask you for this password. So that's like, it's created like a security for your router, that no one can just go there and change anything without you telling them the password. So right now we've password the console line. And there's another line that if you want to configure the router remotely, or you want to access the router remotely without being there, like the physical connection, there's another line, that is the VTY line. And that's what that one does, is that it allows you to connect to the network device. It could be a switch, it could be router, or any network device. Allow you to access them or connect to them remotely. And to do that also, you need the password for that port, that particular port as well. So since it's a network device, everything has to be, you have to start with the configuration to security to make sure everything is fine. So let's do the password for this VTY line. It's called the virtual terminal, VTY, virtual terminal. So it's VTY. Okay, I think it's start with line, VTY. There's this number that says 0 to 4. It's like a range. Usually it allows like, the best practice is it allows like 5 simultaneous remote connections. That's why the range is usually between 0 to 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 5 connections. That's why you always see that there's this range from 0 to 4. So we have the line VTY, virtual terminal, 0 to 4. We're going to put a password also. Usually because the protocol for connecting remotely most time in networking is they use different protocols. Telnet is being used, commonly used. So like I said, you can put any password you want, but just for the purpose of this tutorial, so I'll just put Telnet 123 at. I think that's what we have on the, let me see. Yeah, just for, yeah, Telnet 123 at. So login. So next time, if you want to log in, it's going to ask you for that password. So next, let's look at the next thing we have here. We can also encrypt the password. This one is not like, it's not compulsory, but for best practice, you can also encrypt your password in case anyone comes in contact with your password. Once you encrypt it also, it's like an extra layer of security. So how do we encrypt password? The command line to use is enable secrets, and you're just going to put your password there. So we're going to go now. Before we go, we have to go back to our config mode. If you see, we are still on the config line. So what we need to do is just to type exit. So it will take us back to config because we are no more configuring for the line, for the VTY line or the console line password. So right now we are encrypting the password. So we have to go back to the config mode. So, and to go back to the config mode, just type exit to take you back to the config mode from the config line. So this way you can start encrypting your password. And the command line to encrypt password is just to type enable secrets. Our password is what? 𝐂𝐎𝐓123 at. Then you put login. Let me see. There's an error. It says incomplete command. Okay. Let's see what goes wrong. Config enable secret on. Let's see. Okay. Enable secrets. 3. Yeah, good. We don't need to put the login, so that should be fine. Is everything going on good? Questions? If you have questions, if we are getting it, please let's put it in the chat so that I'll know we are on the same page. The next thing we need to do is this banner message is like a description, just to give your router a description. What is the work of, what is the router doing? It's just a message, so it's optional, but you can also add it to your configuration just to say, okay, this is the work of this router. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I just put this is our home router. So the command line for that one is banner MOTD. It's just, sometimes you can use something like description and you put the name of your description. Usually, you can use any sign. You can use the star sign. You can use hash sign before and after your description. So you do something like banner, MOTD. You can decide to use any sign, but I use dollar here. This is our own router. And put the dollar sign. So you've successfully, if there is no error message, if it goes back to config, but everything you're doing is good. So this is the description of your router. Any question so far? Okay, I want to believe everyone is getting it. So the next thing we need to do, just quickly go to the PDF again. And right now, we want to configure the IP address. Everything we're doing so far is just putting the security on the configuration on the router, putting the password. So right now, let's add IP address to our router. To configure the IP address, if we look at initially when we're adding the cable, it was giving us the ports for our IP address, for the ports for the router. So if we go back to this config here, you'll see all these gigabits Ethernet 0/0/0. So there are 3 on the interface of this particular router. So the first PC was connected to 0/0/0. The second cable, we connected it to 0/0/0. So right now we need to configure these ports, the 2 ports, and assign IP address to both of them. So we're going to do it one by one. So right now we need to go to, okay, let me just go back to the PDF. We are in the config mode at the moment, and we need to go to interface gigabyte Ethernet 0/0/0, and we are going to assign the IP address to it. IP address usually comes, there are simple IP addresses like we can use, which usually start with the 192.168. There are some that start with 10.0.1. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we are using this 192.168.1.1. And the subnet mask usually, which is quite common, is this 255.255.255.0. So we're going to add this interface gigabytes to the command line now. So you can type the interface fully, but sometimes you can use INT just to shorten it. So gigabyte Ethernet 0/0/0. If we look at the config, it has changed from config to IF. So it's telling us now that we can put in our IP address. So 192.168.1.1 space 255.255.255.0. And right now we have added the IP address for the first port. Right now we're going to turn it on. So to turn it on, you have to tell the ports that don't shut down, just come up. That's what you're trying to say. No shut down. And if we go back to, you can see the first one has turned to green. If you look at it right now, the IP address have been assigned to the router. You can see it here. For the gigabyte Ethernet, you can see the other one is not set yet, the one that have that 001. It's not set yet. By the time we had the IP address, you're going to see both of them are going to have the IP address. And this one is turned on already. So let's do it for the second one too. So we'll go back here again. Interface. Okay, we have let's go back. Exit. So we go to interface, gigabytes, Ethernet. So 0/0/1. And we're going to do enter. And right now we're going to put our IP address 192.168.2.1. Then the subnet mask .0. No shutdown. So we're turning it on. Don't shut down. We're telling it not to shut down. And let's see if it's turned on. You can see the other one too is on now. So both of them, they're on. So you can see the IP addresses for both ports on the router. So the next thing we need to do, let's just check our guide. Okay, we have to save this configuration. Let's save what we've done. If you don't save it, all the things we've done, by the time you shut down the router is gone. So you have to save it. So the command to save it is called do write. The do write command. So let's go back here. So we have to go back, exit. Let's go back to the config, just the config mode. And we're going to type do write. And it's going to save our configuration. So all the things we've configured, it has saved it. And for us to see what we've done, just to show if everything looks good, let's go to the home router and let's use this command, show run what is running at the moment. Let's see. I hope everyone can see. If we take a look at what is on the screen, we can see our host name, all the things we've done so far. This is our host name. We can see our enable secrets. That is our password that has been encrypted. That enable secret, that's our password encrypted using the MD5 encryption method. So we can see our interface. You can see these are all the things we've configured just now. Depends on how we want to configure it. There are so many things we can configure, but for the purpose of this class, this is just what we're going to do. This is our description. Say this is our home router. We can see our command line console password. We can see the virtual telnet password. That's the terminal. You can see, and that's all the thing we've done tonight. So right now, we can also use another command to show that. I think there's another command, the show start. Usually, this command is going to tell us that when we start our router again, all these things we configured, are we still going to see them? So that will tell you if you have actually saved it or not. If you have not saved it, you won't see all this configuration. So when next you turn it on, you won't find all this configuration there. So it's always good to test with your show start and your show running. What is running currently and what is going to run when you start the router again. So right now, we have everything sorted. So let's go. Let's check what we need to do again tonight. Okay. Now let's configure our PCs. I think we are done with the router for now. So let's go to our PCs. Another thing is we can rename this PC. What we need to do is just to click on it and rename it. You can change it to any name. Let's say if you're doing like an office, just a small setup in the office, you can decide to name, if this PC is for HR, you can put HR there. If the other one is for finance, you can put it there. You can rename your router as well on your workspace here, just for anytime you're doing all this lab, so that you can be able to like get a clear vision of what you're doing. So everything, because it can get a little bit more complicated when you start connecting lots of devices. So if everything is just having PC0, PC1, it might look a little bit confusing when you start putting in a lot of devices. So it's good as best practice to rename your device. But just for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll just leave it like that. So let's go to our PC0, and now we want to add our IP address for our PC. So we'll go to desktop, and we'll go to IP configuration. Like I mentioned, we are going to assign IP manually, and to do that, we are going to click on this. Static is already on static, but if it's going to be like DHCP, which is going to allow the router to assign IP addresses automatically to devices, is going to be this DHCP, but we will look at that one probably in the next lab. So we are going to manually assign IP address, and if we remember, we connected this to the router that have IP address 1.1, I think. So the IP address will start with 1.2. You can give it up to 100, sometimes 24. It depends on the devices or the connections on that router, on that network device. So for anything from the router is going to be the 0.1. So from 0.1, you can start assigning the number 0.2, 0.3, 4, 5, 6, like that, to all the devices you connect to that router. Usually the router will pick the first number, which is that 0.1. So any other device you connect to the router can start having either 0.2, 0.4. You can decide to make it even numbers instead of just making it odd numbers. So we'll just leave it at 0.1. And the subnet mask is going to be the same as the 255.255.255.0. So we're done with this one. So we go to the next one, which is the PC1. And we'll go to desktop again, IP configuration. Here, if we remember, for this one, the port we used was 0.2.1 for the IP address for the router on that gigabyte Ethernet 0/0/1. So it was 2.1. So for the PC to be connected to this one, we'll use 2.2. That's 2 is the next number after 2.1, 2.2. So the subnet mask is going to be the same. So close it. And if we take a look, let's see. We can see we have the IP address now for this one, and there's IP address also for this one. Any questions so far? Are we on track? Any questions so far? Are we on track? Yeah, so this is what is in the guide that I've also put across. So right now, let's try to ping and see if what we've done so far looks good, and if there's any error, we'll try to troubleshoot what could be wrong. So we'll go to PC. Okay, let's go to the router first. And let's try to ping any of the PC from here. And what network devices, what they understand is IP address. So you have to ping with the IP address or sometimes the host name, but IP address are usually a good way to ping or to see if you can connect to a device. So that's why you have to assign the IP address for them. Without the IP address, if you ping, there's not going to be any connection to be lost because they can't identify the device with the network. So we're going to ping this PC. And if you can't remember the PC, you can go here to where you have your command prompts. If you can't remember, let's say something happened and you don't know where to find the PC, the IP address for this particular PC or device, just go to your command prompts. I'll do it again so that you can see it. Double click on this PC, come to this command prompt and just type ipconfig. That's a short form for IP configuration. It's going to give you the IP address that you assigned. If you say this is it here. So this is the IP address for this first one. You can look for the other one as well. So we are on this one, and if you want to find it like I did, just come here again, IP config. You see, there are different IP addresses. They're not the same. This one is the .2.2. So let's go to the router and just try to ping. Let's see. Okay, let's see. We want to try to ping and see if the router can connect. Okay, it says it's like there is a network, like the network is a bit slow. So let's do it again. It can see the success rate is like 80%. Sometimes it can be slow to connect to it. So let's just do it one more time to be sure that we are connecting and we can see connect fully with 100%. Sometimes there are some loss in connection that can happen along the way. I need to put ping here. Oh, let me just type it all over. Ping. You have to put ping. Don't forget, if you don't put ping, it's going to give error. So let's see. Success rate somewhere. It could be network. So you have to just keep trying if you're experiencing the same thing. Oh, okay. I think I did 191. So it was a typo error you can see right now. So it was a typo error. 192.168.2.2 was a typo error from the end. And you can see right now, success rate is 100%. So the router can connect to the device. That's the PC1, and let's look at the PC0. Ping 192.168.1.2. That's the PC0. So let's see. 80%, like I said, is a bit slow. You can just to be sure that there's 100% connection. Just try it again. Just try it again. 192.168.1.2. And here we have success rate is 100%. It shows that your connection looks good. And that's for the router. And let's try to ping these two pieces. Let's try to see if they can ping one another. Let's go to desktop, close this one. Command prompt. So it's going to ping PC 192.168.2.2. I think that's the name of the PC. Let's see what's going to happen. Where's timeout? What's going on? Could be the network. Yeah, something could be the network, and yeah, just have to try again. Anybody experiencing the same where you are, let me know. So you can see, this is how you can troubleshoot. Sometimes when there's a network problem, you can try to ping. Maybe someone complained that though I can't connect to the internet, maybe in the office or even in the house. You can try to ping the IP address of that device. That's the first way you can try to troubleshoot. So you can see right now that there's no signal. It says you sent 4 packets, you received 0. That means there's 100% loss. So this device cannot be seen. So sometimes it could be like a lag between the network at that particular moment, but you just have to keep trying to see if you can connect with that device. So I'll just try again. 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. What's going on? Okay, could be the network. Anybody experiencing the same thing, please can unmute and talk. Any questions so far?
Hello, Esther. Maybe we should ping 192.168.1.2. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that one will work on that.
Okay. Ping 192.168.1.2. Okay. Yeah. So sent for, received for, there's 0% loss. So can we see now? So there's connection, the PC can see each other, the router can see the 2 PCs connected to it, and we have successfully connected a network device and an endpoint device and configured it with IP addresses, security, password, and we can ping the devices on the network. They can connect and talk to each other. And that will be the lab tonight. Any question? Thank you all for joining. If you have any question, contribution, can we just unmute and just ask our questions? And if we are clear, we can just say everything is clear, and let's just unmute and just say something. So that means everyone is clear tonight on the lab, no question. So that will be me for tonight. Please go through it. If you have any question in between, if you're doing it on your own, just put it on the group chat, and or probably just send me a message, and I'm happy to answer any of your question. Can stop the recording.